Okay, cool. And what's up, everybody? Good morning. I don't expect anybody to still be here right now, because I've just been letting this play, and then it took me forever to get started this morning. Anyways, what's going on? I appreciate everyone's patience with this whole process. I am doing something different this week. Not only are we saying goodbye to the current version of this channel, the current home of this channel, and the current physical home of both this channel and me, we are also going to be. I'm also just testing out like some ideas of what I think is going to happen to. I'm testing out some new ideas. That's all I want to say for right now. So this whole long form, almost never ending. I did have to break stream for a little bit. This almost never ending streaming format is something I'm playing around with and still working on. But right now, everything's so chaotic. Everything's such a mess in my life that like I'm not making these to be like the perfect VODs that are the perfect length and like are easily digestible. This is all going to be a one hot mess of just like whatever comes to mind spontaneously, and then stream's already going, and I can just go ahead and like hop on and do something with it, and then I can put it away for a while, etc., etc. It's also designed to kind of give people a portrait of what my life looks like. As far as like when is he up, when is he asleep, when is he, how is he feeling, like how has he managed the day. So that's also sort of the goal of this long format. But yeah, I don't expect these to do numbers. I don't expect these to get a lot of eyes on it, and that's actually okay with me. What I'm doing right now is just trying to stitch together some things that I can use later as teachable moments and what it's like to live with chronic illness, but and also just sort of like learn new ways I can do the whole online creative thing. Streams and vods and podcast episodes, all of it. Like I'm testing out technology, I'm testing out creative concepts, and I'm also sort of chronicling my day to day with chronic illness. In any case, what I wanted to start with today's episode we're calling Dance Miserable. Yesterday we did Spotlight, which we shined a little bit of light onto what it's like to live with chronic illnesses in general, but especially sickle cell anemia, and how that affects me, which is important because not enough light is shown onto sickle cell anemia patients and what we live with. So shout out to all my sickle cell warriors out there. Sickle cell is one of 7 prominent conditions among more conditions that have their ongoing and ever present. I have more than one pre-existing health condition that is chronic and oppressive on my life. Sickle cell was not the one I wanted to start with because I feel like in the past I've already spent a lot of time talking about it, but you can never talk about sickle cell too much, especially in a world that tends to ignore it. But today we're going to start with we're going to do a episode called Dance Miserable, and today we're talking about condition number dos. This would be sometimes known as ADD, other times ADHD, attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, or attention deficit disorder. Depends on like what you like. People argue actually to this day about which one is more accurate, and whether we should have changed and yada yada. It's really interesting. I have some videos to show you in a bit. But yes, I do have ADHD, and while I do believe that this condition gets talked about very colloquially as like just sort of like, ooh, squirrel. There's a lot more to it than that. In fact, I, like many others out there, argue that ADHD is the incorrect name for the condition. But more on that in a bit. What I wanted to do right now is showcase with you, like, what exactly just happened. So, like, I started stream, like, I woke up, okay? Like, to give you context, yesterday I ended stream in the afternoon, right? Like, not ended stream. I kept stream on, but I took a break from stream, like, around, I feel like it was like 2:33 or something in the afternoon, Pacific time, when I was like, all right, y'all, I had an energy change. I need to shift out for a bit. I knew this was gonna happen. It's not a big deal. I'll take a break. I'll come back. I did not come back until until this morning. And so what happened was I got off around that time. I did a few things for a couple hours that low key. I wanted to go to bed immediately, but I felt that much intense like fatigue and sleepiness, sudden onset, right? And I was just like, all right, I need to definitely get some rest. But there are a couple of things I have to like tie off before I lose track of them. And part of that is, well, there are multiple components to that. One of my other conditions that I deal with is narcolepsy. We'll talk more about that in depth on a different episode. But narcolepsy, in a nutshell, basically tells my brain at all times to go back the fuck to sleep. It's very inconvenient for living a life. I have medications that manage that condition so that I can be alert enough to function. But ultimately, that can set in at any time. Well, that sets in all the time. My conditions are chronic. Like it's always trying to do what it's doing. And so that's a contributor to a lot of my fatigue and sleepiness and drowsiness throughout the day. I also have sickle cell anemia, which, because it's a blood disorder that deprives, that has so many damaged red blood cells, meaning you end up deprived of oxygen in key areas. And oxygen is important to running every facet of you as a person. And therefore, the limited access to oxygen means also fatigue. ADHD is interesting because ADHD also, being a neurological condition that affects some of the chemical levels in your brain, such as like dopamine, serotonin, other important neurochemicals you rely on to stay alert, stay focused, and manage your executive functions in the prefrontal cortex. And because of this, ADHD also can rob me of energy. So it's really interesting. So like I don't know exactly always when the energy shifts are going to happen, but I just know that they're going to happen. And even with the medications I take, I keep looking this way because I keep my medications kind of like to the right of me here, along with my food and snacks and stuff for stream. And so like the thing is, even with medications, can kind of help boost some of those neurochemicals or supplement or replace or even sometimes counteract certain chemicals in your brain. But like, it's like in the case of ADHD, it's like I don't have enough of certain chemicals in my brain. So we kind of it's kind of like we inject me with them, right? I don't do literal injections, I take pills, but like it's kind of like infusing me with the chemicals that I otherwise should have been producing on my own. Should have, arguable term, considering everybody's just built different. And so, with that, it's like I'm trying to put those chemicals in since I don't have enough of them. It's like having a vehicle that's leaking oil or something. It's like you just have to keep putting more oil in until you can actually get that area patched and fixed. And so that's kind of the idea behind medicating, patients with some of these chronic conditions like ADHD. Thing is, there's a leak. It's gonna run out. It's not like this. It's not renewing and refreshing at a rate that most healthy brains would, that neurotypical brains would, and so. In that case, it's like I have to keep putting more in. But the thing is, you can't just keep pumping yourself full of stimulants all day. At least I can't. That will fuck my shit right up. So at some point, I gotta take the L and just go. All right, I'm just gonna have to take this extra rest, which sometimes feels a lot like an L because it's like it's hard to distinguish the rest I need because this is the rest that every human body needs to be able to function. Human beings need to take rest in order to function, in order for the body to repair systems, in order to reduce stress, in order to, sort of rejuvenate oneself. You have to rest. But then when you get adequate rest, you get your 8 hours of sleep and whatever, and you still find yourself like running out of power cells, just sort of slowly, it's just like, well, is this like the real rest I need, or is this just like chemicals in my brain not doing their fucking job, or there not being enough of them to do their job? Like, it's so hard to tell sometimes where the fatigue is coming from specifically. And so in any case, the medications only do so much. Eventually they're going to run out. Eventually I have to take a knee if I need to, or at least take like a pause to do like a low sort of a low resource required activity, just to give myself like kind of a time to mellow out. You know what I mean? Just sort of not necessarily go to sleep, but just sort of like vibe for a little bit, and then a lot of times just taking that time to not actively work on something, um, or try to do something will give me something back and will allow me to have like a second wind. So it's all like various tactics to manage this. But in any case, yeah, what happened yesterday is I felt suddenly a change, a drop in energy, and I was like, I need to lay down immediately. But I do have a couple of things I need to I just need to just have to make sure I have a good stopping point for this so that I can pick it up later and know what the fuck I'm looking at. And it was a lot of that. So I did that, and then by about 4:30 or so like about an hour or two after I stopped, you know, being on camera, I was like, all right, I just need to go to bed. And I was like, okay, I'm just gonna lay down, and maybe I'll take like a 2 hour nap or something. I'll be back up around 6:30, something like that, and I'll resume, my preparations to move and my streaming activity, which is all the same thing at this point. Um, I'm preparing them to move in the background of these streams, and so that was the plan, the goal. What I didn't account for is like the severity of like the level of fatigue, and the fact that I guess I would develop a migraine. I think while I was asleep. So basically, went to bed around 4:30 p.m. Pacific time. I don't think I woke up until 1:30 this morning. It is currently at time of recording. I had to figure out where I put my phone. It's currently 6:15 a.m. So I went to bed 4:30 p.m. yesterday. Woke up 1:30 p.m. today. Took the time it takes to sort of whittle my toes and my fingers and like roll around and try and get myself to get out of bed. I got out of bed. I have this terrible migraine, which I still technically have, and I'm just trying to like think straight and like figure out. Oh man, this does not feel good. What do I do? I am awake now, and I've definitely slept a lot, so I might as well use this time to go get something done, or at least start my day, and then figure out what I can do, right? Um, and then by the time I'm done doing that, washing my face and doing all this other stuff, feeding myself a little bit. I had some food, kind of easy to prepare food on deck, and then just trying to get my bearings, and then that takes some hours, and then in the middle of doing that, even though I had already around 3:30 a.m. I had started stream. I restarted stream. All right, and so um, I restarted stream, and I thought like, okay, well, I'll be on shortly. And then I was like, oh, actually, and then I started doing some other things. One of the things I started doing was just sort of preparing social media stuff and whatever. And then I saw, as happens, I saw a video on social media that sparked my interest, and like is a cause and a concept that is near and dear to my heart and is important to me. But I'm like, look, Phil, this is not going to, investing your energy in this is not going to help you with the move stuff you need to be doing, and or just like the stream stuff you want to be doing. Like, you have a day that's already kind of like in motion that has stuff that needs your attention. You cannot give all of your attention to this. However, this is important, and I am immediately inspired and sparked, and like my creativity and everything else is going off. And if I don't get some of this out, it'll just disappear into the ether, right? And so I'm just like, okay, so I need to just. I thought I was just gonna finish the draft of the post I wanted to make, and then and actually post it. But then I got like 75% through, and I was like, yeah. The more I go down this rabbit hole, the more I realize this is gonna take more time than I want to allocate at this time, because I have other things I need to do today that are more immediate. So I was just like, all right, I can't just stop in the right where I'm at, but let me just like pin off the general concept, finish the rough idea, right? Tie together the themes, and then basically put a pin in it. This is a tool. This is a tool that a lot of neurodivergent and ADHD brains in particular will utilize, like to manage time efficiency a bit better. Because like the thing about ADHD is like you constantly have new ideas popping into your head while you're focused on something else that you had decided to do. I just pick something. Say today I've unboxed my new television or something. I don't have it, but yeah, I've unboxed a new television, and I need to program the remote, and I need to like fix the settings on the TV, and like I need to set it up properly, and I do all that, right? Like that's what I'm doing right now. However, in the process of doing this, the brain starts to do other things and starts to think about other things. And it's like, I don't know, some random neural connection that leads me to um, an early childhood memory of watching DuckTales. And then I get off on that tangent in my brain, and I find something fascinating there. Like maybe I don't, I'm just making this up, but I'm just like, oh yeah, like it's interesting, like that Huey, Dewey, and Louie, referred to Uncle Scrooge as Uncle Scrooge, but Donald Duck, who's a grown ass man, also referred to Scrooge as Uncle Scrooge. Like, so, and yet to the Huey, Dewey, and Louie, they're Donald is Uncle Donald. How does that fucking work? Like, shouldn't they be cousins? Like, and like my brain will just do that, right? But I'm like, that's fascinating. But I'm trying to like program the controller for my new for the television right now, right? Like, and that's what it's like to live with ADHD. It's not like, you know, it's like, it's just like, I mean, speaking of controller, the analogy people use is like like your brain is like a television, but somebody else has the remote and is randomly changing channels. Um, and that's one aspect of ADHD, but it's not the full picture, which is why I think it's mistitled. But in any case, when that happens, one of the things I do that I've learned to do instinctively, and I've also seen reinforced in recent videos and research I've discovered, is you learn to put a pin in it. Okay, so I have this crazy abstract idea about DuckTales that I think would make an interesting video for Hard Mode Selected or something, right? Then it's like, okay, well, cool. Like this really needs to be done before like, I don't know, 8 a.m. or something. Like I really just need this out of the way so I can do other things that I need to do with the television for streaming and whatever, right? It's like, okay, but this DuckTales idea is really random. I don't know exactly how I arrived on it, and I can't guarantee I'm going to arrive on it again. And if I do, it's going to be different because my brain will be different by then. I will be different by then. So I'm like, okay, how do I capture this? And so you start to draft out the idea. I keep OneNote on my phone. I also keep OneNote on my PC, and pretty much any of my devices that I use that support it. And so I make sure I open up OneNote and I start typing away. If my brain is moving way too fast, I will just pull out the voice recorder and I'll record the idea, the concept. I'll just talk to myself. I'll talk to the microphone and just get the ideas out. But in either way, I find a way to quickly get the idea somewhere where it's physical and it exists and it's realized to some degree. And then basically that's my way of putting a pin in it. It's like, okay, it's kind of like having a Post-it note and being like, okay, this is remember to get milk later. Boom, and you stick that somewhere where you'll remember to look later, and you'll go like, oh yeah, I was supposed to get milk. And in this case, you'll be like, oh yeah, the DuckTales episode. Yeah. Let me pick that up again and like make something with that. That's the goal. To be real with you, with ADHD, it's just as likely that I did all that work and took all those notes and came up with a really cool concept that will just get lost in the shuffle of like endless notes in my phone, right? And so, there's no guarantee that I'll actually develop the wherewithal to follow through and make the idea into something. But at least it's not lost. It's sort of like what I like to refer to as not letting a balloon escape into the atmosphere, right? That's kind of what it is like, with ADHD. It's like, you're doing a thing, you're working on something, and then suddenly like this balloon that's this really cool balloon that's full of like your idea is starting to float by, and you're like, oh, that's cool. No, I don't want to lose this balloon. Shit though, but like I'm supposed to be doing something else right now, but I don't want to lose this balloon, right? I don't want to lose this. All right, let me tie this off. Okay, I'm gonna tie off this balloon. Now it won't go anywhere, and now I know where it is, and I can come back to it later. Now, the thing is, by the time I come back to it later, depending on how long later is, and how quickly my brain changes, channels again, like mixing metaphors. The balloon may be a bit deflated by the time I come back to it. It doesn't have the same amount of helium it once did, which is representative of my enthusiasm for the idea. It is also representative for like my clarity on the idea and like what I was constructing, and the likelihood that I'll be able to really do something interesting with it. And so that's the risk you run, but at least, but it's that constant wrestling match between like, do I grab this balloon and like and work on it and get it to float in the direction I want it to float in and release it into the world and make something of it, or but that can steal time and energy and resources away from the things that are critical to getting done today, that I had already determined need to be done today. They are urgent matters. So it's like, okay, I could just follow my rando passion right now, my sudden hyper focus, and let that take over, and then I'm working on this masterpiece work of a balloon, and then meanwhile, like three things that I needed to get done today that were critical. Now I don't have enough steam left to get them done, and so that's one risk. The other risk is, okay, you tie it off so you can come back to it later, but with the amount of things that end up popping up throughout your day and the amount of work you need to put in to get things done, by the time you come back to it, you're like, nah, it's lost. The balloon's lost a lot of air. Like, I don't know, it's not as exciting anymore, or it doesn't, or it is still a good idea, but like, I don't have enough resources left to do anything with it right now. I guess it's just gonna have to wait longer. And before you know it, you have like 80 balloons over here, and like none of them are completed, right? Welcome to my gaming library as a streamer, right? And so that stuff happens all the time, and you just like learn to live with it. It doesn't always end tragically. Sometimes I do come back to the balloon. I'm like, okay, I've got time now, and then I wrap it up in the shape I want it to be wrapped up in, and I polish it, and I articulate it with details and draw on it and make it a work of art, and then I'm like, this is the thing, the exact thing I wanted to create, or this is better than the thing I was initially trying to create, or this isn't as good as I was hoping, but like it's still worth sharing. And then you ship it off into the world. You let it go, and it gets to be something. You get to do something with that idea, that concept. That is the life of both me as a creative and me as just a person dealing with whatever comes up in my life. And that's just one tactic and one example. But with that, I that's basically what happened before stream today. I would have started I would have started talking to you all like like an hour or two ago, or even earlier. But one of those balloons popped up, and I was like, yeah, this is worth it to me to shape and tie off for a later date. But that also helped in the sense of like reminding me about this aspect of living with one of my conditions. Um, the thing about ADHD that is, I feel like misrepresented as well, is the fact that ADHD is mistitled. I am not I don't have an attention deficiency. Um, what I have is attention overwhelm. I've talked about this a little bit before, but it's not so much that I have trouble paying attention to things. No, my brain is paying attention to all the things. Every little sensation and thought and feeling and environmental stimuli is coursing through me at full volume, as if like they're all of equal importance, you know? The project I'm working on, the fact that I'm running out of time on the project I'm working on, the fact that I'm hungry, the fact that it just got like two degrees colder in the room and I don't feel good about that. The fact that this tag in the back of my shirt is starting to drive me nuts. I need to rip this tag out. The fact that, I heard a buzzing sound. Was that a bee, or is that like just like a car from outside, or what are we dealing with? Okay, great. And like, like it's like all these things that I just constantly notice, and not the least of which is my internal monologue. my internal thoughts are going through all kinds of scenarios that I'm not necessarily intentionally generating, and some of them aren't, and they're not all inherently bad either. Some of it's really great stuff that's going on in here while I'm supposed to be doing other stuff, but it's like it's just not helpful for the focus task I'm supposed to be doing right now. Um, and it's just like noticing and sort of cataloging so much stimuli at once. A lot of the stuff that for other people would be subconscious or passively sort of edited out of their brain because the brain is better. Your neurotypical brain is better at going. That's not really important right now. I don't need to pay attention to that, and mutes it or puts it way in the back somewhere. It's still in you somewhere. You're still taking in the same amount of information that I'm taking in theory, but it's just like a neurotypical prefrontal cortex is better at like managing like prioritization and going like, yeah, this is cool, but like this is not it right now. Or yeah, I did register this, but like it's such a small, insignificant detail that it's your brain mutes it to the point where it's like you practically didn't feel it or pick up on it. My brain doesn't do that as much. My brain more is like, no, all the details matter, which is why I'm good at certain things. We talked a lot about what sickle cell takes away from me yesterday. I meant to get around to some of the things that you get from having conditions as well. It's a give take. It's blessing curse. It's classic Marvel superhero. It's I have something that actually is quite extraordinary and uncommon, and can have a lot of great boon and benefit to it. But I also have something that will completely fuck up and derail my life because I want to live a life like everybody else is living a life, but that's not the hand I've been dealt. So, it's sort of that push and pull, that give and take, and so I sort of go, all right, well, I often end up talking in these types of conversations about the negative context of these things because they're underrepresented. People don't know sickle cell anemia even exists half the time. And with ADHD, people have colloquialized it into this sort of like generalized, oh, you're kind of ditzy or you just don't pay attention thing. Oh, I'm so ADHD right now. And it's just like, no, like there's an actual disorder, there's an actual condition that does specific things to those brains. And, you know, it's not as simple as just being kind of flighty or inattentive. It's so much more involved. We're gonna get into that today. I have a video to queue up, so we're gonna go ahead and start with that, so that I can also not talk as much because I'm talking into a vacuum by myself, and and that's part of my job. But also, that's part of what I do here. But it's like also like even I get bored with that. Let me get this video for y'all. So we'll watch a video and we will have a good little chat. A little chat about like the validity of the statements. Actually, we have two videos today that deal with ADHD, potentially three. I'm not going to necessarily back to back them all at once, but we are going to watch one, disseminate, see where those thoughts take me and take us, and then maybe take a breather and then queue up another video to kind of cover it. All right, sounds good. I want to close this. Yeah, close the tabs. Okay. Let's see. Okay, at least stream is working well. That's good. Let me put this away though. I don't need it right now. Oh, Risenark is live. Shout out to Risenark. Finally, this weekend for me. That's what's up. Love me some Risenark. Such a magnanimous and fun individual. Like just really really cool. I'll see if I can keep a tab open for the good buddy Risenark. I say good buddy. It's not like we ever met, but like I love his makeup. Such pretty makeup. He does such a good job. does such a good job of that on the regular. In any case, let me close this one. And this one, and let me open up your tube. Your tube. Mm-hmm. Let's see. What is this? I definitely watch this later as a interview of Willem Dafoe talking about what it was like to work with Sam Raimi. All right, let's see. What the fuck did this feed just suggest to me? Let's say this to watch later. Ooh, someone had like, let's see, save this to watch later. Interviewed uh, the main supporting actress from RoboCop. I want to check that out later too. All right, so where did this video go that I was looking for? History. I know the title of it. I can just search it. Okay, that's good. Let's see. Uh, All right, there we go. Got that. And then how long is this video? That would be perfect then. Okay. Okay. And let's see. Let's see. Audio, video. Mm, nah, there we go. All right, y'all. So, we're gonna watch this video. It's one I shared with a couple of people recently, trying to give more insight into what ADHD actually looks like on a person. And it's one example. Every brain is different. Every person's different. But this is a good sort of I think this is a good insight into the various things that go on in ADHD brains and lives, and how, and one great example of how it can look on a person. Um, I follow a channel on YouTube called How to ADHD. Um, and the woman who created that channel and still to this day offers videos on you know sort of insights and life hacks and strategies into living with ADHD successfully in a neurotypical dominated world. Um, Really has been incredibly validating and functionally helpful for me as a person who's been living with this for my whole life. I've had it my whole life. I was diagnosed as a 10-year-old, which is earlier than a lot of people get. I'm talking to people all the time who are like, I'm 40 something. I'm 45 years old, and I'm just now finding out I have, ADHD. I'm 26, and I just found out I have ADHD. I'm 33. I just found out I had ADHD. You know what I mean? Um, there are people who keep finding out, you know, after significant time on this earth, further in life, that like, oh my God, I've had this the whole time. And I think within the last two years, the realization um, about how under um, how to put this, how underestimated this condition had been on my part. Like as far as like in the big, puzzle and equation of like what does Phil have to deal with? Um, I let ADHD fall to like the bottom rungs of like, I mean, yeah, I have this, but whatever. Nobody's worried about that. I'm not worried about that. Like I've had it since we've known since I was 10. I take the medications. I do the therapy. Like whatever. Fuck it. Like I have sickle cell anemia. That shit's trying to strangle me to death. I have other conditions that are like way more in my face, and so they seem more immediate and therefore more important, which is funny considering I have ADHD. And you'll learn a little bit in a second here of how urgency is a big factor in how ADHD brains are motivated. But yeah, I just kind of figured like, okay, yeah, sometimes I don't pay attention good. The end. And there's so much more to ADHD that isn't um, openly discussed about in the greater conversations about it in the general, amongst the general populace. But on the internet, like more and more people are sharing like, nah, dog, like ADHD is not just, oh, I can't pay attention good. It's so much more layered and detailed than that. And the whole I can't pay attention good may not even be entirely accurate. So we're gonna watch this video, and that way, I can get more information out there to y'all about how this works, and I'm gonna be discussing and disseminating the information as well. All right. While this happens, I'm gonna get some more hydration going, and I'm going to also take my medicine for today because I don't think I've done that yet. So let's do this. And let me move it. Let me move this to my other screen. That'll be easier. How's that? Oh, if I turn the volume on and what's up?
Hello, brains. I say that to you because if you think about it, it wasn't really you that decided to come here today. It was your brain. And whether you decided to walk or drive, take a taxi, ride a bike, that decision was made by your brain. Behavior, all behavior, is affected by the brain. This is a story about my brain. So I was a smart kid. By 18 months, I was speaking in full sentences. By 3rd grade, I was scoring post-high school on standardized tests. I had, as all my teachers agreed, so much potential. I was also struggling. I didn't have any friends outside of books. I was easily overwhelmed. I spaced out in class. I lost things constantly. And trying to get my brain to focus on anything I wasn't excited about was like trying to nail Jell-O to the wall. But I was smart, so nobody was worried. It wasn't until middle school when I was responsible for getting myself to classes on time and remembering to bring my own homework that being smart wasn't enough anymore, and my grades started to suffer. My mom took me to the doctor, and after a comprehensive evaluation, I was diagnosed with attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, ADHD. If you're not familiar with ADHD, it has 3 primary characteristics: inattention, impulsivity, and hyperactivity. Some people with ADHD have more of the inattentive presentation. Those are the daydreamers, the space cadets. Some have more of the hyperactive, impulsive presentation. Those are the kids that usually get diagnosed early. But the most common presentation is a combination of both. My doctor and my parents decided
that's where I live too.
My shiny new diagnosis, maybe stimulant medication would succeed where spankings and lectures had failed. So I tried it, and it worked. The first time I took my medication, it was like putting on glasses and realizing I could see without squinting. I could focus. Without changing anything, my GPA went up a full point. Honestly, it was kind of miraculous. By 14, I had friends that liked me. By 15, I had published my first poem. I got a boyfriend. By 17, I knew I wanted to be a journalist. My local college had a program that would guarantee admission to USC. They had a really great journalism program. So I signed up at my local college, and I started taking classes. I moved in with my boyfriend. Things were going great until they weren't. I started having trouble making it to class on time. I aced a statistics course, but I forgot to sign up in time, so I never got the credit. I took classes so I could help my boyfriend with his career, but I completely lost sight of mine. I never made it to USC. By 21, I dropped out of college and moved back home. Over the next 10 years, I started and quit or was fired from 15 jobs. I ruined my credit. I got married and was divorced within a year. At this point, I was 32, and I had no idea what I was doing with my life, besides reading self-help books that didn't seem to be helping. What happened to all that potential? Was I not trying? No. I worked harder than anyone I knew. I didn't even have time for friends. I was that busy. I had potential, though. So my failure was clearly my fault. I just hadn't done what I needed to do to reach it. And honestly, I was tired of trying, putting more effort into life than everyone else, and falling farther and farther behind. At this point, I could have given up on myself. I could have decided that everyone who thought I had potential was wrong. But I didn't, because I knew that it was my behavior that had gotten me here. And behavior is affected by the brain. And my brain has ADHD. Looking at my behavior, I knew, even with medication, even as an adult, my ADHD was still interfering with my life. What I needed to know was how and why, and more importantly, what could I do about it? I started to do some research. And I found a lot of great information. I found a lot of bad information too, but that's another talk. But there's good information out there. Websites, podcasts, talks by researchers and medical professionals. Books that would have been way more helpful than the self-help books I'd been using that were clearly written for normal, well, there is no normal, neurotypical brains. A lot of what I found, though, was either super technical or seemed like it was written for parents and teachers trying to deal with ADHD kids. There wasn't a lot that seemed intended for us, the people who have ADHD.
Crazy.
So I started a YouTube channel. I had no idea how to start a YouTube channel, but I started a YouTube channel. I almost called it How Not to ADHD because that was about all I knew at the time. But my boyfriend, Edward, talked me out of it. Turns out lots of people need help understanding ADHD, including, maybe especially, those who actually have it. I was no exception. I thought ADHD was kind of the same for everybody. I thought it was mostly about getting distracted. I thought having ADHD was maybe the reason that I was failing at life. And I thought I was what needed to change in order to be successful. I couldn't be successful and still be me. Spoilers, I was wrong. So let's go back for a second. Let's go back to what brought us here today. The brain. Understanding the brain you're working with, it turns out, is kind of important. And that's true whether that brain is your employees, your students, your kids, your significant others, or your own. ADHD affects between 5 and 8% of the global population, which means, statistically speaking, there's between 37 and 60 of us just in this room. You can't tell who we are just by looking, but it's fun to watch you try. So at some point, you're going to meet someone with ADHD. Work with them, give birth to them, or fall in love with them. Chances are, you already have. And at some point, you're going to ask yourself, what is going on in their brain? So after 2 years of learning about ADHD and a lifetime of experience with it, after having the honor of connecting with researchers and doctors and ADHD experts and tens of thousands of ADHD brains all over the world, what can I tell you to help you understand ADHD? By the way, many of them helped with this talk. First of all, it's real. It's not bad parenting or lack of discipline. ADHD is a neurodevelopmental disorder. It's currently the most well-researched mental condition, and there are actually measurable differences in the brain. These differences are larger in children, but for most people, they never go away. In other words, adults have ADHD too. While rates of ADHD diagnosis are increasing, it's not because of an increase in sugar or technology or lack of spanking. It's not. Any more than people drowning in swimming pools is because of Nicolas Cage. Correlation does not equal causation. Those are real numbers. It's from both an increase in understanding that ADHD exists, that girls, adults, and gifted students can have it too. And ironically, a lack of understanding that being hyper, misbehaving, or struggling in school does not mean you have ADHD. ADHD is more serious than I realized. The primary characteristics in inattention, impulsivity, and hyperactivity don't sound all that serious, and I didn't think that they were, but in real life, they translate to people getting into more accidents, being more likely to get fired get divorced, significantly more likely to struggle with addiction. I learned that ADHD is on a spectrum. Raise your hand if you've ever lost your keys or spaced out in the middle of a lecture. If you're not raising your hand, I'm going to assume you spaced out in the middle of this one. The thing is, while everyone experiences ADHD symptoms sometimes, an actual diagnosis is based on how many of those symptoms significantly and chronically impair multiple aspects of your life. Just like you can get sad and not have depression, you can get distracted and not have ADHD. And just like you can have mild depression or severe depression, ADHD can range from mild to severe. I also learned ADHD is a terrible name for ADHD. It creates a lot of confusion. We don't have a deficit of attention. What we have trouble with is regulating our attention. As ADHD coach Brett Thornhill puts it, it's like your brain keeps switching between 30 different channels and somebody else has the remote. Sometimes we have trouble focusing at all, and other times we get stuck on a channel and can't pull ourselves away, which in real life might look like we just don't want to do homework because we'd rather play video games, and sure, sometimes that's the case. But the truth is, there are plenty of times we want to be able to focus. We try, and we just can't. Current understanding is that this difficulty has to do with the way our brains produce and metabolize neurotransmitters like dopamine and norepinephrine. I learned ADHD is highly treatable. Stimulant medication boosts these neurotransmitters, which is why it helps us focus. It's very effective for around 80% of people with ADHD. And I learned that medication isn't enough. ADHD affects much more than our focus. It impairs executive functions like planning, prioritizing, and ability to sustain effort toward a goal. It affects our ability to regulate our emotions, our behavior, our sleep. It's not one program in our brain that it works differently. It's the whole operating system. It can affect every aspect of our lives. And there are a ton of strategies out there that can help. Cognitive behavioral therapy, coaching, even meditation or regular exercise can make a huge difference, understanding your brain. I knew I had trouble focusing, and I knew my medication helped with that. What I didn't know was that getting overwhelmed all the time had to do with poor working memory, and that making lists helps. Or that the reason I ran late all the time wasn't because I didn't care. It's because ADHDers have a skewed sense of time, and that using a timer could teach me how long things actually take. Mostly I expected to learn what I actually learned, that ADHD is real, addressing it is important, and medication is not enough. What I didn't expect to learn, that I wasn't alone. I had an ADHD tribe. What a difference it would make to connect with it. There are people with ADHD in every country, every culture across the globe. Yes, even in France. And this tribe is awesome. Comparing myself to people with neurotypical brains, I felt really bad about myself. Why couldn't I keep my house clean or finish a project in time instead of waiting till the very last second? But seeing the positives in fellow ADHD brains helped me recognize and appreciate my own strengths, ones I couldn't see when I was just staring at my weaknesses, which is what I'd been doing for decades. But ADHD brains have a lot to offer the world. We tend to be generous, funny, creative. ADHDers are 300% more likely to start their own business. We not only think outside the box, we're often not even aware there is a box. We may struggle when our brains aren't engaged, but ADHD brains are great at tackling tasks that are urgent, working with ideas that are new, wrestling with problems that are challenging, and dedicating themselves to projects that are of personal interest. This YouTube career I'd stumbled into was all of those things. At 32, I was divorced, miserable, and had no idea what I was doing with my life. At 33, I'd started my own business and was connecting with ADHD experts. By now, at 34, I have a team of volunteers helping with the channel. I'm engaged to this amazing man who helps me produce the channel, works right alongside with me, is doing the slides right now. And as we discovered, also has ADHD. I'm working on reaching out to schools so that kids don't have to wait until they're 32 to learn about their brains. And I'm doing my very first TEDx talk here with you today. But wait, there's more. Wait. That did sound like the end of the speech. I'm sorry, it's not. I'm happier and more successful than I've ever been in my life. So what happened? How did I reach my potential? 3 things. 1, I learned about my brain, my ADHD brain, both on my own and by connecting with others who have it. If you judge a fish by its ability to climb a tree, it will live its whole life believing it is stupid, unless it happens to chat with another fish and realizes fish aren't great at climbing trees, and that's okay. There's plenty of ocean. 2, in learning about my brain, I found and stumbled into a job that engages it. If you spend all your time trying to get a fish to be able to climb a tree, you'll never see how far it can swim. It turns out I can be me and still be successful. I just had to find my ocean. 3, I learned strategies for the challenges I still face. I have no fish analogy for this one, I'm sorry. I guess I learned how to swim. Once you know what your brain's challenges are, you can find solutions to them. Once you look past the stereotypes and assumptions about people with ADHD and dig deeper, you learn what ADHD actually is. It's not people who won't stop fidgeting or getting distracted. It's brains that are chronically under-aroused, trying to get the basic level of stimulation all brains need. It's not about procrastinating or not caring. It's having executive function deficits that make it hard to get started. And it's not people being lazy or not trying enough. It's kids and adults struggling to succeed with a brain that doesn't always want to cooperate in a society that wasn't built for them. Society is our user's manual. We learn how our brains and bodies work by watching those around us. And when yours works differently, it can feel like you're broken. So what I'm trying to do is reach out to these people, wherever they are in the world, and tell them, you are not weird. You are not stupid. You do not need to try harder. You are not a failed version of normal. You are different, you are beautiful, and you are not alone. If you don't have ADHD yourself, chances are you know somebody who does. They're your employee, your boss, your friend. They're in this room. I hope this talk helps you understand them better. If you do have ADHD, welcome to the tribe.
Holy wow, that went by fast. For some reason in my head this video was longer. Maybe that's just the ADHD. No, shout out to Jessica. Yeah, so that's a great place to start. There's a lot of really important key details in that video, right? As Jessica, I want to say McCabe. I don't want to get her name wrong, but as Jessica was explaining, founder of How to ADHD, which is a great channel if you're looking to learn more about ADHD, whether you have it or someone you care about has it, or whether you're just a curious person. How to ADHD. You Google that, or you search that on YouTube. I mean, same thing. Google owns YouTube. Then you can find out more about the great work that she's doing. She's made a ton of episodes in the time that she's had that channel, and it's full of great stuff. And what I love about her is that she's very, very candid in that, like, look, these are just things I've tried and that I'm working on, or this is something I'm trying now, or whatever. And like, she's like, it's not one size fits all. Like, everybody's brain is different. Everybody's experience is different. So like, she's just throwing out things that she finds useful or things that she thinks might be useful, and is willing to give a shot. And she'll report back in if it, to let you know how it worked. But mostly she's giving you stuff that she's already tested, that she's like, this has helped me. Maybe it'll help you. Maybe it won't help you. Maybe part of it will help you, but you gotta throw out the rest. I appreciate that kind of honesty. Especially on a platform like YouTube, which it's not the way YouTube started, but YouTube has evolved into a corporate space that is designed to constantly sell us stuff. And I should know I'm a YouTuber now myself. But like it's there are still people out there doing great work that's just designed to give you something, not necessarily sell you something, or it could, people split the difference. Jessica does end up having like sponsors for her videos and things like that, and but she always is great about like making sponsorship partnerships that like actually make sense for her channel and what she's trying to accomplish with her channel and her community. And whenever she takes on those sponsorships, yeah, like sure she's getting paid, but like um, if it usually ties into the theme of the episode, and usually if it is a tool that's supposed to enhance the thing she's trying to educate you on, she makes sure that you know what the alternatives are if you're not in a position to or don't have desire to purchase that specific thing from that specific company, which I think is at least ethical, right? Like that's just really cool, as opposed to the only way you're going to get better is if you buy this specific product, which is very disingenuous. But it's more like this technique I employ has really helped me, and if you would like to try it yourself, this company's made it easy for you. But even if you're not going to go with this company, like there are ways to get the same result with using what you have around you or whatever. And I think that's fucking dope as hell. Shout out to Jessica. All right. Anyways, back onto ADHD. So as we just covered, ADHD is not does not look the same on everyone. It is a spectrum. It's not just you have ADHD and you're automatically this. It's like there are degrees. ADHD can be milder for some, and maybe it can also change over the course of your life. Like most of the conditions I have are things that I was born with. ADHD is one of them, and so its prominence and its effect on me, like many of the other conditions I have, changes as I change. Um, a lot of the things that are involved with ADHD have been consistent throughout my life, but the severity of them and the ripple effect on my personal life has gone up and down over the years. I mean, especially since as you get older, things just tend to get more complicated. I have more responsibilities. I'm not a little kid running around, with the safety net of parents and like a system that could do a lot more to help and elevate and protect children, but at least is designed to prioritize child safety more so than adult safety. Um, so in those scenarios, it's like the consequences could be big at the time because it could fuck up my school life, and it could fuck up my behavioral functions, and it could get me a lot of trouble at home and at school and everywhere I go. But it also can be you also have a bit more of a safety net, a bit more of a bubble. At least I did, and not everybody has the same scenario growing up. But I had more of like okay, but he's a kid, let's help him out, But as you get older, as I got older, I should say, some of that support just vanishes exponentially as I age. So you're looking at like I'm age 17 in high school, and it's just like, dude, you're going to be in college next year. Get your shit together. Is kind of a general sentiment that's not coming from one specific person, but like just sort of various corners of my life, right? Like that's always been the thing that's mystified me about and vexed me about Western culture, especially American culture, around coming of age. We live in a society where we've kind of removed any sincere rites of passage that signify like, okay, you're such and such age, you're ushering into this new life development stage. But even more so than not having rites of passage, it's just more about the fact that like there's this weird thing where it's really based on power dynamic. It's really based about on like hierarchies and not letting everybody have a voice. Children have less of a voice. It's sort of determined. It's this weird thing where we pay more attention to children because they're precious and they're cute and must be protected at all costs. But also we listen to children a lot less because you don't know anything. You've been here for like 5 seconds. Shut the fuck up. Stop acting out. And so with that, I find that like there's this weird effect where the younger you are, the more you're just kind of given allowances to to not have your shit together, right? And but also with that comes sort of that constant infantilization of like, you're not a real fully fledged person yet, so you don't get a vote in anything. You have less of a voice, less power, and but also with it fewer responsibilities, right? And then you get somewhere around like age 17 or so, right? And then suddenly it's like, even though up to this whole point, like even age 16, etc., you've been treated like, oh, you're just a child. And then suddenly it's like 17, clock's ticking, you're about, you're approaching 18, you're going to graduate, you're going to be you're going to be a legal adult. And then suddenly everybody's just like, man, get it together, grow up. Like, you should be able to handle responsibilities. You mean the very responsibilities you didn't want me to have when I, because I was just a little kid who didn't know anything. It's this very weird thing that happens in child development that, at least in America, that I've always been like perturbed by, and just like, why do people think this is gonna work? Um, but anyways, for somebody with ADHD, as I turn like, the things that were cute or just sort of like, it's annoying, but like he's just a little kid. Now it's like, whoa, you're about to be a grown man. Like, why are you still struggling with this shit? Like why don't you just have your shit together? Um, which is wild because we know now, and we knew somewhat then. We knew then that the human brain, the executive function center of the human brain, which is the prefrontal cortex, doesn't finish fully developing until circa age 25. It varies depending on like uh, biological factors, but roughly around age 25 is when your brain is done in the oven. And so it's like interesting, so much pressure is put on young people. um but yeah, and then you get older, you get I'm in my 20s or something, and it's just like, okay, now it's really like, hold a job, focus, get it together. If you want something, you gotta work for it, stop being lazy. All that stuff gets fed your way. I had an interesting conversation with my older brother. I'm gonna say last year, I think, or the year before. I think last year. See, time, the passage of time isn't something that my neurodivergent brain is not particularly great with. But I think it was last year. And so there's this conversation I had with my older brother about changes I needed to make in my life and everything. And I remember referencing like the sense of being lazy when I was younger, right? Of not giving it my all, not pushing to really, you know, make the most of my potential. My brother had such an interesting response. Shout out to Star Cardinal, but Ray said to me, "Yeah, that's not how I remember you, Phil. Like, I don't remember you as being lazy. I don't remember if you as being, you know, of not putting the work or the effort in. Like he really." And it was just a candid response he had, and I was really taken aback. I was like, "Oh, wow." Um, there's probably few people on planet Earth that I've spent as much time with as I have my older brother. Um, and for him to have that observation was really validating and meaningful to me, because I've always tried. I've always tried my hardest. Um, but sometimes it just felt like, you know, there's this potential inside, this thing that I know I can do, but it's not coming out right. And you know, we live in a very productivity oriented, uh, society, thanks to, in no small part, to capitalism, and its parent, classism. But yeah, I don't know. It just felt like, okay, I just didn't. I never stuck with anything. I never followed it through enough. I didn't do enough. I didn't take it far enough. I didn't study hard. I don't know. Like, it just felt like I wasn't doing the things. And it's wild because I knew I was intelligent. That My intelligence is something I have never questioned. I've never had to question whether I think I'm a smart or informed individual. Like I grasp information very thoroughly and handily. Um, Full disclosure, as part of the testing that would lead to the discovery of my ADHD, um, because my parents were also very attentive, and they were just like, "Yeah, we know Phil's smart. Like that can't be. That's not the thing messing him up at school. Like, he's smart. He gets the good grades. He even gets good grades. It's just more like there are these sort of notes about him not, finishing assignments on time, or, you know, tuning out in class, or, you know, speaking out of turn, or acting up, as they say, or doing things that were disruptive. I like to be class clown. I like making people laugh. I was always going to be an entertainer, guys. um, you know, so like all these things, these tendencies I had, like people, I was getting these reports back from teachers and administrators that were troubling, and I also was just falling behind on like homework and stuff, and like I was losing points off of grades for stuff like just remembering to turn something in, or remembering to do the reading, like, but it was never a barrier. The barrier was never I didn't understand this concept, or I don't know what we're doing, like I can't get the right answer. Like that was never the thing, ever. So my parents peeped that. My mom, by the way, was a retired school teacher at that time. And she had taught elementary school, and so she helped me with a lot of like early development of like my understanding of English, and learning the alphabet, learning how to spell, learning my basic reading, writing, arithmetic, addition, subtraction, even some timetables and division. She helped me with all that foundational stuff, a great deal, and ahead of time. Like she was preparing me for those things before I was actually taking those things in school. Um, and then my father took over more the later parts of my education, where it was like, okay, now you've got like, you know, function statistics and trig, and now you've got like these more sort of advanced classes, and that's where he kind of excelled at helping me. Um, he was not strictly a teacher by profession. He worked in business marketing for over 25 years. It's just a very sharp and brilliant mind, and just very curious, very interested in science and math, and all the things, really. Shout out to Dad. Um, so, you know, um, both parents were able to pick up on like, no, Phil knows what he's doing, but he understands the shit, but like something else is clearly messing him up at school. So that's when we started testing me, right? And so it was my mom's idea to like take me to psychological evaluation, and eventually neurology, and that's kind of the collaborative, like it's all part of your holistic health. So like basically, when you have a condition like it, well, I shouldn't say you. For me, having a condition like ADHD and finding out that that's the case really was a collaboration between primary healthcare physician, um, uh, a psychiatrist, and a neurology team. Um, Primary healthcare physician just has to be aware of like all the things you're dealing with, and just has to be a generalist and kind of like know everything that's a little bit about everything that's going on with you, right? And looks for the baits, and also is good at looking for like the Occam's razor approach of medicine, of just like the simplest explanation is often the more accurate answer. You hear hoofs hitting the floor, you think horse, not zebra, right? Start with the obvious and then work your way out. So yeah, the primary care physician just kind of like handled that part. The psychiatry was just because I was having behavioral issues, and so wanted to have me evaluated. Psychiatrist and a psychologist are two different things. A psychologist will typically be a therapist, right? Like there are different types of psychologists, but like in the terms of me getting mental health services, the psychologists that I have seen over the years were therapists. Basically, they're there to listen to me and talk through what I'm experiencing, and monitor and help me find strategies to regulate my emotions, my behaviors, my responses. They may also, come up with a diagnosis for me as far as like what condition or conditions they think I'm facing, because they have to do that in order to like bill insurance. I literally had my therapist tell me that. He's like, I don't like, look, I have to pick something in here, but I just want you to know, don't focus on the diagnosis. Like, we're going to focus on, what's working for you and what's not working for you, and what you need. We're focused on supporting you, but like, I have to write down that you have something. Not that he was making it up, but like, the symptoms that I was displaying were congruent with the diagnosis that he came up with. It was just like, he just didn't want me to identify my whole vibe, my whole personality as this diagnosis. He didn't want that to be the focus. You know, he just wanted me to just know this is how the medical system works, and like, gotta do it. So yeah, psychologists often will like, in the context of treating me, was like, they're usually the therapists I saw, and they're good at counseling, and they're good at strategies, and they're good at listening, and having a more enough emotional distance, a mix between empathy and emotional distance that allows them to help me as an outside resource. And we try strategies, and we put them to the test, and we modulate them as we go. But a psychiatrist is someone who's going to listen to what I'm experiencing, what's going on in my life, and more importantly, what symptoms I'm displaying. They're gonna get some background evaluation on me, essentially, is like, what was your upbringing like, and what were your parents like, and like, what things are interest you, and what things upset you. They're gonna get like a full range, like a full history. Usually, the first appointment with a psychiatrist is like, at least in my experience, has been like the longer appointment, like closer to 45 minutes or an hour, maybe even 90 minutes in some cases. But like, over time, typically my interaction with psychiatrists become briefer and further out, because it's just like, they're more, to use, I guess, a car analogy, they're more like a mechanical maintenance team, like just kind of like making sure, like, okay, your brain is being supported and cared for, and like, and they're the ones that can prescribe medication. So psychiatrists can prescribe medication and other treatments, because they're a medical doctor. They can prescribe medicine and other treatments that may help you manage your conditions. And their job is to more monitor the condition and how it is expressing in you and in your life, and go, okay, here are the things that we are going to physically tweak to help you get where you're going. They may also help with, like, the talking it out and strategizing part. It depends on who you're seeing. So yeah, when I was a kid, primary care doctor did the general part, and then the psychiatrist was like working on, like, okay, what's going on inside of you, and then ultimately we went to a neurologist, and it was like, they're more able to look at the actual physical architecture of your brain. They're the one doing scans, and maybe hooking my brain. Like, I remember specifically my brain's being hooked to electrodes at one point. I don't know what the fuck that test was was monitoring. Maybe just brainwave activity in general. But yeah, they would like have all these. I remember it was very like odd, and like, just like, because they had this like kind of like skin safe, like kind of glue that they like, like, or putty, or of some sort, that just like got the electrodes onto the various points of my cranium here. And I just remember being like, this is just kind of weird. And like, they basically were testing, like, okay, well, what can you, like, they would have me do stuff, and like, they would kind of like monitor, like, what happens with my brain activity when I do certain things, which is very important, and kind of diagnosing ADHD, or at least it can be a very useful tool, because it just sort of shows you, when does my brain fully like light up with like activity, and like an interest and focus, and problem solving, and then like, when does my brain just kind of go womp womp, and it kind of dims off and just disengages. And one of the things that we'll get into in another video is that, when you have ADHD, often when you have an ADHD brain, like, what you'll see on scans, and brainwave pattern analysis and things of that nature, is, it's the mundane tasks and like the maintenance tasks. You know, daily hygiene and like doing laundry and cleaning up the apartment and like getting your taxes done and yada yada yada. Like it's sort of the boring mundane stuff, but that the stuff that is also very critical to making sure that my life actually functions in the society we have. It's that stuff that like my brain checks out on. My brain activity will go dim and just sort of like go no. And then anything that is of particular interest of me to me, and that's going to vary from person to person of like what's interesting to them. Anything that actually like fills me with excitement or passion or gives me those those stimulants pumping through my system, you'll see it right away. And that's why you'll notice like talk to me about comic books or science fiction, fantasy, or um, philosophy or activism, human rights activism, or one of my places of interest, and then suddenly just full on rants just come out unprompted. Um, but you know, you know, asked me to read an instruction manual about like a new job, a new day job that I have to do. That's not something I'm into, like a new customer service retail job, and it's like, you know, and sure, everybody experiences like a little bit of that to some degree. Where like obviously there are things that are interesting to us and things that are boring to us, but when you have an ADHD brain, like the cognitive processes um, and the chemical exchanges actually change, slow down, dry out, um, lessen, and and it causes a problem even when you really want to or are really trying to um, follow through on something and get it done. And so it's a real interesting struggle. There are multiple. This is, like the reason I got into working in entertainment is multifaceted. It is just a passion of mine. It is just something I loved right away from early childhood. I'm immediately introduced to storytelling and imagination and narratives, and just already having an overactive imagination. It was like like I was always gonna love this shit. But the decision to allow myself to explore a career in it and like base like my livelihood on it and stuff. Um, that came about in pieces over the years, but ultimately, it's one part. Yeah, it's something I'm deeply passionate about and love, and it gets me out of bed in the morning, it gets me excited to embrace life. More on that later. But then there's also the aspect of it where it's like, well, I'm very knowledgeable in it. I've spent so much because of my passion. I've spent so much time, like, engulfing myself in it and investigating it and investing in it and learning about it and mimicking it and imitating it and doing it. Like, so it's a mix of like, well, I have a passion for it, and I've spent a lot of time on it. So now I've developed skills around it. Then furthermore, I've gone and specifically gotten education and training and hands-on guidance about like how to develop it. Um, but also another component is I'm chronically, ill with multiple conditions, and these conditions make functioning in a regular day-to-day capacity in like a normal, neurotypical, 9 to 5 dominated workspace impossible to sustain. Um, at least without, at least without flagellating and punishing myself. And even then, I'm still gonna burn out at some point, or drop the ball in some critical area. The amount of jobs I had lost over the years just because like I had trouble getting out of bed, or because like I kept like showing up late because I wanted to be there, but like the brain kept forgetting some of the key steps to getting ready for the job and making sure that I can show up on time. Like you know what I mean? Like it's hard to describe to people, but it's like each day I wake up, each time I wake up, not even day, each time I wake up, I could take a nap and then wake up. And like as I wake up, my brain is like has to rev up and kind of figure out, okay, what were we doing? What's the next thing? And it's like, oh yeah, you wanted to, you want to make it to the supermarket, before 5. And it's like, okay, yeah, great. But every time I want to go to the supermarket, it's like, oh, I forgot. I haven't. I need to actually shower. I haven't done that yet. My bad. Okay, let me shower. Okay, actually, I need to brush my teeth. Let me. Okay. Well, shit. Where's my keys and my cell phone, my wallet? Okay, hold on. Let me look for those. All right, great. Finally have those. Oh snap! I forgot. I need some hand sanitizer with me because I'm compromised. Where's your mask, dude? Okay, I got my mask. Great. Um, oh wait. Do I have clean enough clothes to wear? Did I do laundry? Fuck. All right, hold on. Yeah, this will work. I think this will work. Do I have a jacket? Where's my jacket? Okay, great. There's my. Like all these little sort of micro steps in between me and getting to the store. Um, and before you know it, it's like, oh, it's it's actually 6:45 now. I wanted to be there before 5:30 for specific reasons or whatever. And it's just like, yeah, that's every day. That's every day. Just sort of like having to a lot of like memory issues of just trying to like remember. Wait, what are the steps to put one foot in front of the other? Oh, right. Yeah, I can do this. I do this every day. What am I doing? But by the time I get the momentum, it's like, you know, deadlines have been missed. New problems have arisen. Uh, et cetera, et cetera. So it's easy to get derailed in life with ADHD. Um, I have systems for mitigating it to the best of my ability. I'm constantly revamping those systems. Much like you see me constantly revamping my control scheme in Marvel Rivals, I'm constantly revamping the way I approach my life because I have to. That is one of the upsides of having ADHD and being neurodivergent is that actually adaptation, being able to adjust to reframe or do things differently, can be a strength. Mileage may vary. There are a lot of ways in which neurodivergent people or people with ADHD specifically might struggle to do new things. But typically, what I've seen for myself is like, yeah, yes and no. It's like I do struggle with change, accepting a new normal to some degree. I do get fixated or hung up on a specific concept or a specific thing I want it to see happen or a specific person I want it to connect with or whatever it may be. But I also, both from ADHD and just having other chronic conditions like sickle cell anemia, like my life is constantly being derailed. And if you don't develop some sort of like resilience to that, you will just drown. And so I've had to develop just sort of a sense of like, oh, okay, it's like this now, great. And so and you just you adjust and you move forward and you do things a little different. So actually, I feel like I have such a rehearsed and storied practice of just you know rolling with the punches and coming up with a new way to attack something or a new way to get something done or a new way to look at life and experience things. That's actually become a strength of mine, and I'm very thankful for that. Um, Part of the blessing side of the curses of the conditions I have is the fact that it takes a lot to take me down and keep me down. Um, a lot of times you'll see me get knocked on my ass or fall face forward, but there's not a lot there are not instances that you can really point to where I'm just going to stay there and go, I quit, I can't do any better than this. uh, it's actually why I don't in the game. It's why I'm a stubborn hard mode gamer. All right. uh, I I embrace challenge and I refuse to yield to it. um, I take pleasure in overcoming it. um, there's a sense of accomplishment. That's it's a dopamine hit that I definitely get when I finally like, ha ha, this thing that whipped my ass like 82 times in a row. Time number 83, I fucked it. I fucked it. I fucked the whole shit up, and I won. You know what I mean? Like I fucking came here. I conquered all that shit, and so like there's something great about that. A lot of people don't have that resiliency. A lot of people are very easily discouraged by sort of initial perceived failure or difficulty, and I'm like, nah, my life is nothing but difficulty. And a lot of it I did not choose, but the rest of it I am choosing, just because it empowers me to do so. and because it keeps it exciting and thrilling for me. But Marvel Rivals, I don't ever hit the surrender option. My teammates might, and I might get outvoted if I'm playing with random people, but I'm never going to surrender a match. I don't care how poorly it's going. I don't care if my entire team is zero KOs across the board and 15 deaths apiece, and there's only 2 minutes left in the match. Not hitting surrender. And that's not just stubbornness. I mean, it is, but it's also just I'm not easily deterred by again, rejection, failure, things of that nature. Do they still hurt? Yeah. I mean, not so much when I lose the video games. I mean, they'd be pissing me off sometimes, but I mean, to be fair, anger is just hurt wearing a leather jacket. But it's those are micro moments of hurt. But I'm talking about real life disappointment. The person I fell in love with doesn't fall in love with me back. The job that was going to be really great for me in my career suddenly goes away. The apartment I really wanted says, I actually no, we're not gonna we're not gonna qualify you for this. You need to keep looking. That type stuff. I still get hurt by those things, and I may still need a moment to duck down and reload in this firefight of life, trying to figure out how to survive. I may need to take a minute, take a breath, lick my wounds. I may even have moments where I'm like, you know what, fuck it, and walk away for a little bit. But it's always for a little bit. I eventually always come back and go, okay, now that we feel a little bit better, or now that we still feel crappy and realize I still got work to do, what's the next move? Because I'm forward thinking. Despite the misery and suffering I endure from all of my conditions, tormented every day, I am an irrepressible optimist. Part of it's hubris, to be real with you. Part of it's just the fact that I'm intellectually aware. Again, ADHD is paying attention to everything. I'm intellectually overly aware that a solution does exist. A practical, pragmatic, realistic, workable solution. No matter how outlandish it may seem right now, no matter how far-fetched it may seem from this point, this particular vantage point I'm at, I know a solution exists, and I know that I am capable of employing that solution in a way that's effective. I may not know all the ins and outs and nuts and bolts of it right now, but I know that it's possible. And knowing that and not obtaining that just pisses me off, which motivates me to fucking figure it out. I'm an irrepressible optimist. As long as I have breath in my body, I will find a way to build towards a better reality. And as much as I dread being trapped in this brain and body at times, I also lovingly embrace all the wonder that being a little bit different holds. I hope today this was helpful for you. Maybe it's not, but it's helpful for me to keep track of these things and share what I can, and hopefully somewhere out there in the ether, somebody else maybe learns a little bit more about themselves and has some restored faith in their own ability. A bit of, I don't know, a little something special to put in your meter as you charge up to your optimal self. I will be going offline now. I'm going to go take care of some things that need to be done. I'll be popping back on periodically throughout this week to make sure that I update y'all on what's going on, but also to just take breathers or to come here for support. I'm not just putting on streams for you guys. I'm I'm being restored and re-energized by being able to come and hang out with you. And I really want to say thank you for that. Uh, this community is such a beautiful and wonderful thing, uh, such a source of strength and encouragement. And whether you've been donating to the campaign, or whether you've been you know subscribing and following me on various platforms, maybe whether you've been subscribing to the Twitch, which is a paid subscription thing, whether you've been you know whether you've become a patron on my Patreon, uh, and whether or not you just show up, you just hang out. You may never even type in chat. You just lurk and you know keep me company. Um, you view the things that I'm a part of and doing, and I don't know, whatever your level of engagement is with what I'm doing here online. Uh, it means the world. I truly am grateful for it, and so yeah, I'll be stopping in. I know it might seem kind of wild with everything I have going on to be streaming and stuff right now. I'd be like, Phil, you should just like don't worry about streaming. You should be packing and doing the other stuff. And it's like, no, I mean this is how I'm doing the other stuff. This is how I'm staying engaged. Remember, I have ADHD, and so sometimes I really need the external stimuli to develop the neurochemicals I need to have a bit more pep in my step to do the things I need to do. The idea behind Phil's Special Meter is not something I just completely randomly landed. I'm not gonna lie. I didn't have this whole high concept fully realized when I picked the name. I picked the name because it tickled me to have a video game pun as a name. I was very happy when I came up with it because I was like, "Oh, this is even greater than philosophical madness. This is like it's like a video game reference," and that's about as far as I thought about it. But as I've been doing this for some years now, the more I've developed Phil's Special Meter, the more I've realized the actual depth of the meaning of the name. And yeah, I come here to get my meter filled as well. What you guys give me allows me the additional bars of health or special attack meter or energy to pull off the moves I need to pull off in my life and face my boss battles ahead. Yeah, see, it's not just a catchphrase. It's something I thought about. All right. Yeah. Oh, I don't get a lot of engagement on the more heady, like real life discussion stuff, and that's okay. I think more of this will end up being stuff I end up like exploring with hard mode selected, because I think it's more interesting from a viewership angle to see people having a conversation than just like listen to some dude pontificating into the void for an hour or so. But still, right now this is really helping me to get these things sorted out in my brain, and I don't know. Hopefully, give some of you a glimpse at what life is like with some of these conditions. Thanks for tuning in to Dance Miserable, day 2 of this event. Yeah, I'm gonna keep doing my thing. I'm not gonna let life's difficulties fuck my groove up. And it may not feel good all the time, but I can still find moments to enjoy. I hope you enjoy yours. Talk to you soon.